Here are 7 of history's largest and most ambitious failed heists. Number 7. The Norrmalmstorg Robbery. On the 23rd of August 1973, Jan Erik Olsson walked into Kreditbanken in Stockholm, Sweden, fired a submachine gun at the ceiling, and took 4 hostages. He wasn't just after money. He demanded 3 million Swedish kroner and the release of his friend, Clark Olofsson, from prison. For 6 days, the world watched a tense standoff. Olofsson was actually brought to the bank to appease the gunman, and the pair held the hostages inside the main vault. However, the authorities refused to let them leave with the captives. Eventually, police drilled holes into the vault from the apartment above and pumped in tear gas, forcing the men to surrender. The heist was a total failure. They didn't get the money or their freedom. But it left a lasting psychological legacy. During the siege, the hostages bonded with their captors and actually defended them against the police. This bizarre phenomenon was named after the robbery's location, Stockholm Syndrome. Number 6. The Chase Manhattan Bank Robbery. If this story sounds like a movie, that's because it is. This August 1972 heist in Brooklyn was the real-life inspiration for the classic film Dog Day Afternoon. John Wadowich and 2 accomplices stormed the Chase Manhattan Bank, hoping to steal enough money to pay for Wadowich's partner's gender-affirming surgery. From the start, it was a disaster. One accomplice lost his nerve and fled immediately. Once inside, Wadowich discovered that the armored truck had just left, meaning the vault was practically empty. They were trapped inside with hostages for 14 hours, while a media circus erupted outside. Wadowich became an instant celebrity, ordering pizza for the hostages and throwing cash to the crowd. But the charm offensive didn't work. On the way to the airport for a promised getaway jet, the FBI shot and killed his partner, and Wadowich was arrested. He went to prison, and the only money he ever saw from the crime was a percentage of the movie rights, which, ironically, he used to pay for his partner's surgery anyway. Number 5. The Transy book heist. In December 2004, 4 students at Transylvania University in Kentucky decided they didn't want to wait for graduation to get rich. Inspired by heist movies, they plotted to steal rare books from the school's special collections library, including John James Audubon's Birds of America, valued at around $12 million. Their plan was incredibly amateur. Dressed as old men in professional prosthetics, they tried to taser the librarian, but the device failed to incapacitate her. Panic set in. The books were much heavier than they anticipated. Some were massive folios, and as the librarian screamed, they dropped the most valuable volumes and ran, escaping with only a fraction of their target. The final nail in the coffin? They tried to get the stolen books appraised at Christie's auction house in New York, using a personal email account to set up the meeting. The FBI tracked them down almost immediately. The masterminds were arrested, and their blunder was later immortalized in the film American Animals. Number 4. The North Hollywood Shootout. On the 28th of February 1997, Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Matassarianu entered the Bank of America in North Hollywood. They weren't looking for a stealthy getaway. They were looking for war. Both men were covered in 40 pounds of homemade body armor and armed with illegally modified fully automatic rifles. They terrified the customers and grabbed roughly $300,000, but the failure happened the moment they stepped outside. They were met by police, and instead of surrendering, they opened fire. What followed was 44 minutes of hell. The officers' standard-issue pistols couldn't penetrate the robbers' heavy armor, forcing police to raid a nearby gun store just to commandeer rifles that could match the robbers' firepower. Despite their overwhelming force, the heist failed because the robbers had no exit strategy for a firefight of that magnitude. Matassarianu bled out on the street, and Phillips took his own life. They had the money, but they never stood a chance of spending it. Number 3. The Swissport Cargo Raid. On the 17th of May, 2004, a gang of robbers thought they had an easy score at London's Heathrow Airport. Their target was the Swissport Cargo Warehouse, which was holding £40 million in gold bullion and another £40 million in cash. 7 men in a white van rammed the warehouse shutters, jumped out, and threatened the staff with firearms. It looked like they were seconds away from one of the biggest hauls in British history. There was just one problem. Scotland Yard was already inside. The police had been surveilling the gang for some time. As soon as the robbers made their move, over 100 armed officers sprang a trap, blowing out the tires of the getaway vehicle and surrounding the men. The perfect airport heist was over before they could even touch the gold. Number 2. The Millennium Dome Raid. In November 2000, a gang attempted arguably the most audacious robbery in London's history. Their target was the De Beers Millennium Star, a 203-carat flawless diamond housed in the Millennium Dome, worth an estimated £200 million alongside other gems. The plan was cinematic. They used a bulldozer to smash through the dome's outer wall, threw smoke bombs, and attacked the display case with sledgehammers and nail guns. They planned to flee via a speedboat waiting on the River Thames. But the flying squad, the elite robbery unit of the UK police, was waiting. They had replaced the real diamonds with worthless replicas just hours before. Disguised as cleaners and tourists, the police tackled the robbers the moment the glass shattered. The thieves were caught red-handed with fake rocks, and the getaway boat never left the dock. Number 1. The Sao Paulo Tunnel Plot. If there were an award for effort, this crew would win it. In 2017, Brazilian police uncovered the largest failed bank robbery attempt in history. A gang had spent 4 months and millions of dollars digging a 500-meter tunnel from a rented house directly to the vault of the Banco do Brasil in Sao Paulo. This wasn't just a hole in the ground. The tunnel was an engineering marvel with electricity, ventilation systems, and tracks to move debris. Their target was 1 billion Brazilian reais, about $317 million. The police, however, had been monitoring the gang for months. They watched the construction, tracked the movements, and waited until the tunnel was completely finished. Just as the gang prepared to breach the vault floor, the police raided the house. They arrested 16 suspects and seized the tools, leaving the robbers with a massive construction bill, a long prison sentence, and zero cash. It remains the most expensive and elaborate failure in the history of bank robbery.